Okay, so welcome to another episode of Finding Your Way with Lori and Tonya. We are super excited to have you back today and to share a little bit more info with you guys and another little tool that we use. And if you are new, we're so glad you're here. We believe wholeheartedly that there are no accidents, and you have absolutely found us for a reason. So you are here you're at the right place at the right time for the right info. So welcome.
Yeah, so Tanya and I, the whole point of doing a podcast and sharing the things that we've experienced and sharing tools to help us live a life that we want, really is because we were not living that way in the past. And so I'd say we were living remote, like by remote, and just very autopilot and never gave consideration as to what we were doing, why we were doing it. It was almost like, you go to school and you graduate high school and you go to college because it's just what's expected versus really getting clear on why you would do any of that. And so that was a big eye-opening thing for both of us as we started to take a real honest look at where we were in our lives a few years ago. And then okay, well, we want better, but why do we want better? We can define the what all day long, and that of course changes, but what is at the root of why we want it? I know I had this conversation with my husband all the time back when I was not living an intentional life. It's like, why are we working so doggone hard? We're working ourselves to death, but why? Like, what is it leading to? And so that's really what today's about, is to help you understand that that's a foundational question that we each need to, pop our heads up a little bit and take notice of, because only you can define your why, and you can only define it if you put some attention to it and really do some soul searching a little bit about what your why actually is.
Yeah, and so this really comes into play in every facet of the things we do, the efforts that we make, and in each situation by situation. And what I was finding was, for me, is I kind of lost sight of the why. It was easy to say, and I'll give you an example, is where I live, and at the time my children, the age they were, I am a big birthday person. So birthdays to me are a big deal. And so I was throwing these lavish, expensive, over the top birthday parties. And 3 boys. It was a lot. It was a lot of work. And when I asked myself later on in this adventure of why was I doing this, it became really clear I was doing it to keep up with the Joneses, for appearances, for myself, for what it looked like. Yes, I wanted my kids to have fun, but what I realized was they had fun when I backed that up a little bit and asked them what they wanted. And sometimes it was a small group of 4 or 5 friends for a spend the night in the backyard in a tent. Do you know how much that cost me and how much planning that was? And not the 50-person party with the magician and the stuff and the things and the hours of planning and the expensive birthday cake. But my why, when I got really clear, it changed the way I was doing things. It really, my why should have been, I want them to feel good. I want them to feel honored. I want them to feel joyful. I want them to feel celebrated. And so when I really got clear on what my why was, I realized that my actions were not necessarily meeting my why. And so, gosh, I saved a whole lot of money and time and heartache when I started marrying those 2 again. So for me, that why question is something that I really try to ask myself more often in a lot more situations, whereas before it was so surface level. You start digging deep and it gets interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been very easy to just say, well, my why is because I'm doing it for my kids. Like, I'm doing it for my kids, right? And most people would have accepted that as truth. And so what we have experienced is you have to dig a little bit deeper and go a little bit further down. And typically you're seeking a feeling, you're seeking some sort of emotion, a sense of freedom, a sense of worthiness, a sense of love. If you really keep digging and uncovering those things. So one thing for me, as I started trying to answer that question, what am I working so hard for? Why am I exhausting myself through a 9-to-5 job that really at that time wasn't paying me all that much? Like, why am I doing all of this? Truthfully, it was an expectation, right? It was how I was raised, and I was raised to follow through on commitments. And I was raised that, okay, well, you've got a steady job, then that's the thing that you do, right? You see that through, you see that all the way through to the end. And, you've made commitments to that employer. And I do think younger people nowadays don't have as much of that baggage that they carry like we do. We're both in our 40s. And so we've just grown up with those expectations that you carry, and you don't even think about them because it's just the way it's always been. And so for me, it was really almost scraping off some of the stories that I had collected along my life to the point of, wait a minute, I'm doing that for somebody else. I'm doing that not in a service type of way, but I'm doing that because somebody else expects me to do it, but I'm not getting anything out of it. And it's not getting me closer to the life I want. Wait a minute, there's some unbalance here that I need to really look at. And so it is very eye-opening if you're willing to go a little bit deeper than what the standard answer is. And I think for me with my job, when I got real clear, it was, I am looking for that sense of security and not maybe willing to step outside of my comfort zone and do something different because it's safe and it's comfortable.
Yeah. And I'll say, I think when we start exploring our why, at least, I think that you felt this too, is I started eliminating situations from my life and things that I was doing, because when I started asking the why question, the answers were not matching up to how much effort I was putting out for the why. And it just didn't make sense. And I'll also say that some of the things I started doing that in the past had been out of sacrifice, actually started becoming out of love and honor and appreciation. So an example of that is, 3 very talented children in my household, a gymnast and 2 dancers. And there's a lot that goes into that. There's a lot of running around and carpooling and spending a lot of money on a lot of things, a lot of weekends. And so my why was, well, I want them to be well-rounded. I want them, but when I got to the surface, I started digging a little bit, and I was exhausted and I was tapped out financially, and I was alone and I was doing it all. And it became a chore, and I became to do these things out of sacrifice, and it felt very heavy. And then when I got to this, that was the surface. And then I started digging deep, and I said, why am I doing this? And it was because it makes those kids feel good. It is their passion. It's not just something they want to do because it holds some space in their lives. All 3 of them truly have this passion, and they found it at a very young age. And so I wanted to honor that passion for them, and I wanted to create a space and give them the opportunity to have something I never had, which was this love for something that was outside of them and the effort and the motivation they had. So I started realizing the why behind why I was doing it. And I wasn't doing it just to make them happy. I was doing it because it was filling their cup at such a young age and making them feel successful, but it was making them feel love and passion for something at a very early age. So once I realized what my true why was, it also made doing those things a lot easier. It made forking out the money that I was working so hard for a lot easier. It made the drive time in the car and the hours and hours and hours and weeks and weekends traveling fulfilling. I really started looking at them for a different perspective, and it's because I really got down to the meat of my why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes people will say, well, the reason I work is because I've got bills to pay, or I've got, people depending on me. The people that work for me depend on me to do my job and that kind of thing. And that's, I'd say, a surface level answer, wouldn't you? And so, those are, family responsibilities, work responsibilities, even our health and our like, why am I trying to be fit? Like, am I doing it just to fit in a size something dress, or am I really doing it to feel my best and be able to serve from a place of wholeness and fullness and wellness? And so it is individual to each of us, but I'd say there's the big picture why, right? There's the big picture why of why do I want this life that I've envisioned that's a little bit better. But there's also those individual, why am I holding the birthday parties? Why am I toting 3 children all over the world for dance and gymnastics? Why am I continuing in a job that maybe isn't fulfilling me? So it is exploring that in a broad sense, but it's also in the things we do. And that's when things start to fall off, because when you get clear, it's very easy to say no to things if they're not helping you to meet your why. And it helps you to get clear so that you are spending your time and energy on the things that are going to get you to your why versus things that are just noise.
Right. Well, and I will say that when I started asking the question, why am I doing this? I was volunteering for things at gymnastics and dance within the organizations that I felt like I had to, right? Mm-hmm. I felt pushed into. Other moms were doing it. But why was I doing it? It wasn't giving me a good feeling. I didn't feel valued. I didn't feel like it was recognized. My kids didn't care. I was doing it for the look of it because I was worried about what somebody would think. I was doing it for these reasons. And when I asked myself why, it did not match up. It did not match up for the internal feeling I needed to give my energy and attention to something. Mm-hmm. The why was not good enough. And so I stopped doing it. And it's been recognized, I'm sure. I've heard, people mention, gosh, you're not around as much as you used to be. Those conversations. And honestly, I would say, well, it's not that I don't love you guys. It's not that I've ditched everybody. It's just that I have other things in my life right now that demand more of my attention and that I need to put my energy toward. It's not against you. It's for me.
For me. That's right.
and so when you start picking your whys, you do let go of stuff and you add things and things that maybe were a chore don't become a chore anymore. It's really interesting what you can accomplish when you know why you're really working for it.
Yeah. And I'd say, each of us has passions and desires on our heart. So even if being the one mother that does all the things that dance is not on your heart anymore, it might be on somebody else's heart, and that's perfectly okay. And that's how things continue to roll and get done, right? Because people have different skill sets, people have different passions for things. Their why might be different. They might really get joy from doing those things. And what if you were taking the opportunity away from somebody that was really bringing you joy, would have brought them joy had you stepped out of the way and let them do it, So it's just sort of changing perspective a little bit as we get really clear on why we're doing the things we're doing, not feeling guilty when we let go of stuff that is expected. Like, who are they anyway? Who is this they that expects stuff from us? It's our own selves. It's us. We do that. We're the ones that are putting these expectations and responsibilities on ourselves. So hopefully we planted a seed with people today that, this was a biggie for us because we had never gone deeper to really think about, why am I doing this? And actually just keeping on asking that question, why, until you really get at the root of it, because until you do that, it's going to stay sort of surface level and you're not going to feel compelled to change things in your life, drop things away, add things if you don't get clear on why you're doing what you're doing.
Absolutely. And so, you know, this is another beginner baby step to getting there, right? To how do we start living the life, the destination life, the life of our dreams? How do we start doing that? And it is enjoying the things we are doing, letting go of the things we don't enjoy. And you can't get there until you know why you want it. We can want it all day long, but until we're clear on why, ask yourself. I mean, that's your task, is for every event, for everything you're doing right now, ask yourself why, and ask it more than once and dig deep. That circle level why is not going to get you where you want to be.